Hello all. So, wanted to do a video today on one of the three pillars that we talk about in our system. We have distance, timing, and intent. And we've done some videos primarily on distance and timing. And I thought we might discuss intent a little bit because it's important. Now, before you do anything in martial arts, there are a couple of things you have to be able to do. And people often mistake these things as the end all and be all. They aren't, but they're important. You do have to know how to fight. And the fighting is for a lot of reasons. First of all, it toughens you up. It gets you used to physical violence and fighting. And in that way, you can start to refine your skills. If you look traditionally, sociologically, most cultures have wrestling of one sort or another. Wrestling has always been a stand-in for the same thing. Wrestling is very tough. You have to be in very good physical condition, and it gets you to a point where contact and such become normal. So you can do more skill sets as you develop. Traditionally, these roles, this learning, was for certain members in society. However, as martial arts has become more widespread and useful, a lot of people who train don't necessarily have an entree into that process. So a lot of things happen. People spar. Sparring isn't fighting. People roll. Rolling really isn't fighting. People do various skill sets before or in lieu of fighting because fighting is unpleasant. Some of us become at an age where if we didn't do those things, we'll never have a chance to. If you're a 60-year-old man and you're starting martial arts, your ability to fight at a high level, stress-wise, can be limited. So if you didn't have that experience earlier, you might have some problems. By the way, this is really why people often tell you in martial arts you have to start early. There's a myth that this is because you'll develop much better. But the truth is, you need a stage in your life when you can sort of go hammer and tongs and do it in such a way where you don't get yourself in trouble and you develop the capacity, and then you can refine. I always use my own most studied practices as an example. In the Japanese classical systems, samurai didn't really start to do combat related stuff with the sword till they were 13 or so. They were very big and strong, maybe a little earlier. Most of what they were taught before that was movement under the guise of tradition, sitting properly, where to put things like that, how to fold your hakama. But the real purpose of that was simply to develop your movement skills, and then you would start into your training. So again, let's pull aside the curtain here. These are the real reasons why things were done that way. So what does this mean regarding intent? Most people in today's society are not exposed to violence the same way that it was sort of de rigueur in times past. If you were a citizen of many different particular societies, you would have to have some exposure if you were going to be doing any martial related activities to fighting in some way or form. We don't have that. People tend to then go into these training scenarios where you're given baby steps. And the problem with that is that it doesn't address the real violent situation in which you'd use your skills. So it's a kind of a false sense of security. Is there any way to really deal with that? To which I would say to you, as somebody with almost 50 years of experience at this point, yes, to some degree. Not perfectly, but there is a way. And that has to do with looking at yourself and figuring out what would motivate you to act violently. This is especially so for women who aren't necessarily socialized to know how to act violently. If you understand what will motivate you, then you can teach yourself intent wise what to do in order to be aggressive and fight, not spar, not roll, not do demos, but to really get into a situation, not necessarily just fighting, but for example, having somebody attack you with real intent and knowing how to deal with that likewise. And this gets to the heart of intent. Once you understand what motivates you, you learn how to control it and channel it. And again, you have all these misconceptions about how to properly use motivation. Some people tell you in martial arts, you must never get angry and lose your cool. Other people are like, that anger drives you. It's true, both are correct. There's a time and a place when you are intent on, you're involved in a situation and you are in a violent encounter. Your intent at that point, how you will be the best and most effective, involves all ranges of emotions, including anger. There are times when rage is very helpful and it can be controlled. And it has to do with how you use your mind and mental faculties to control that. And there are times when being relaxed, cool-headed is often also a very important consideration. So the very first question to ask yourself regarding intent is, what will make you fight? And then from there, you can start to develop your whole demeanor based on that motivation. As you get better, you will learn that a good part of martial arts has to do with restraint. And the reason for that is because if you do something stupid, you could kill somebody or somebody could kill you. And you could wind up for the rest of your life in jail or dead. So that's the reason for, again, this intent. When people say things like, well, this idea that you don't have to really hurt the person, you're going to get your ass kicked when somebody's really trying to hurt you. That's not what this is about. It's about understanding restraint. Because especially when you use weapons, that's a very useful emotional and physical countenance to evoke in a situation. You have to be very good to do it. That's the problem. You cannot simply have restraint without any ability otherwise. It's like you can't really be a pacifist if you're not capable of violence, right? You have to be capable of calming causing great harm and choosing not to do so, to be a pacifist. It's the same idea. So, what you have to do for your own training is start to develop your intent, understand the things that trigger you, use them as emotional energy reserves, and then let them reflect in your kamae, the way that you're holding positions and what techniques you're using in a particular situation. And you will see very quickly that the quality of your movement, the distance, the timing, the rhythm will reflect and allow you to exercise and execute technique based on the whole coming together of the distance, timing, and your intent as well. And under the same sort of general understanding, when you train, you don't have to be dour about it or grim, but you have to understand the seriousness, okay? And you have to not be afraid to go to the knowledge base that involves the use of weapons and striking to areas that are very dangerous, because you can't simply censor and hope that that will not enable others. People who are intent on harming, they will find a way to try to harm others. If you present them a better option, because everybody has to have that information, it's sort of the price you pay. So, with that said, think about the things that will make you strong and ready to act.